So I realized today, I've been doing this thing where I've been trying to string the videos together, and that's really messing with the style of what I'm trying to accomplish, and that is to get the information gathered so that I can kind of compile it and actually make a presentation later. Oh goodness! So I'm going to try and quit doing that because I realized I'm affecting the outcome because I'm trying to steer. And the whole point of this is to allow my free thought to flow and kind of see where it leads and see what's worth talking about and what's not worth talking about. So, what came to mind today was debt. And this is kind of what started me off, like really learning about money and led me down the path of exploring. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about debt. And that started from many of you know the Dave Ramsey principles. If you're not, I'd suggest you look him up. But he does things based from a biblical perspective, and the passage that he typically quotes is the borrower is slender. Hmm, the borrower is slave to the lender, and I really thought about that a lot. I was like, is that right? Is like does that work in all applications? Because there's a lot of things that the more you think about it, the more fringe cases you find. You find examples of why it doesn't work. But I thought about it a good bit. It's actually quite fascinating. You're double enslaving yourself with the way we do it with the current society. So with take your well anything that you borrow for, right? With our current setup, requires you to have enough income to qualify for that borrowing. So you get a job, and then the job allows you a certain salary, and then you use that salary to qualify for this loan. So, at the bare core of it, you have enslaved yourself to the person you borrowed the money from, and because you now owe that money back to them. But the interesting thing is you have further double enslaved yourself to the job because now you need the job to pay the money back that you've owed. And I did a really deep dive into this, exploring like why do good people not say stuff at the companies that they're at when things start going bad. And this is kind of that's what I've concluded. I mean, that's where the pathway led me. Like these people have double enslaved themselves to this system. I myself had double enslaved myself to this system. Now we did a lot of hard work and got out of this system. And that's further proof that this is absolutely true because I can feel myself. I'm not fully financially free as far as, I don't have money making money or anything like that. Like I still have to have a job to eat. But based on where I'm at with finances and particular goals at any given time, I can feel myself flowing in and out of that feeling of entrapment into my job, specifically for money. And the less money I owe or the less money I need, the less I feel enslaved to that job. And so that's kind of like was the proof for me is like the further I get away from relying on other people's money, the more free I am to make and say things that I want to say rather than biting my tongue. And there's some people that are going to say whatever, but I think a lot of people are trapped by this and don't realize they're trapped by this. And that's a really big part of it. So that was one of the core fundamental things, and every way I've evaluated it is you've indebted yourself to someone. That means I owe someone. It's I gave them a favor, uh, and then they can put pressure on you to return that favor, essentially enslaving yourself to who you borrowed from. And that's cool too, because that examples lending someone a favor, doing something for someone that changes the that's that energy exchange that I was talking about before. That's I've given them some energy in this form. But the other part of this is debt is a so in that one hand it is the enslaving. But what are you enslaving? You're enslaving your time, energy, opinion, ability to walk away. So you've committed yourself to something in the future. So debt is literally borrowing from your future self to have something now. Now, sometimes I will make those trade-offs. I don't hold firmly to the system, but I go into the system knowing full and well exactly what I'm purchasing and exactly how I'm compromising myself whenever I walk into that system. I think that's really important. I'm still learning the whole future self aspect, because I have these plans that I would like to have for my future self, but I'm constantly weighing back and forth between what about present self. Like I've done a lot of hard work, and we gave up a lot of things and that we waited for later, and now we're kind of getting in that stage of we want to enjoy some stuff, do some things. So it's a give and take. So sometimes we're in it, sometimes we're out of it. And then I guess the older I get, the more I realize is I'm borrowing from my future energy, my future abilities. And I guess as one gets older, you start to think about how finite those energies and those years are. And that's I want to hit on all the schemes and go back to the Dave Ramsey thing, because a lot of people give him heat because mathematically that process is not the right process, and then you can do all these fancy calculations to where I can show you how to leverage debt, and I can sit down and do the math. It's quite easy, and there's a few people that have become quite successful doing that math. The problem is when everybody applies that to themselves, thinking they're going to be that 1 out of 100, which we all tend to think we're going to be that 1 out of 100. Not realizing the amount of discipline, and not just financial discipline, but like emotional discipline, which is, I guess, the big thing he talks about is the the it's never a math problem. It's a person problem, and that I see that to be true. Like if I could perfectly execute these strategies mathematically, I can make much larger returns by leveraging this debt. But also, we never account for the risk, and we never account for how we're actually going to respond to that risk. I was just talking with someone the other day with this recent market drop. They were approaching retirement, and they just steadily saw the market dropping, which those math equations tell you that is the time to buy. The majority of people get scared, and when they're fearful, they pull their money out of the market because it's let me preserve what I can preserve for my future self. So we're playing this, yeah, and they basically secured that they would not get money whenever the market rose again. I think this is all played out over the last 3 or 4 months, and that's that fear aspect, the risk factor that you don't account for when you borrow from your future self. It's like, when I get back to the energy concepts of I'm in good health now, if I have a 30-year mortgage, am I going to be in good health when I get near that 25, 30-year mark to be able to pay that mortgage back? So think about it. Think about different scenarios to where the borrower is slave to the lender, and think about that how that applies to your job. Think about how many times you've heard people say, if I didn't have to pay these bills, or if I didn't have to have this, I wouldn't put up with this stuff. And I think that's the real root of the debt issue.